be making a rake for my project, and what I did is I grabbed two tall branches and I made this one. I had cut this one down to about 5 feet, and then I did another one that was really long and I cut that down about 3 feet. So that's what it looks like next to each other. And then I grabbed some rake tines and I made notches in them. So what I ended up doing was cutting them about 8 to 9 inches, and then what I did was I put my hand on one side, cut right here, and then I grabbed this piece which is going to hold it in place like this. And I measured it and I cut the notch out so that it would fit in the stick. So what I'm going to do right now is do another one just to show as an example of how I did it. So what I did was I measured these out and then I marked them. Marked it with a saw. And then, so I think this side's going to be my edge. So what I did right here is I marked right here next to my hand, and I grabbed the piece I'm going to be using to connect them like this, and I want to measure it just to make sure it fits right in. So it's going to be about like right there. Let me take this part off. So, here's my notch. Now what I'm going to use after my saw is I'm going to cut the notch in right here with my other knife. I want to make it somewhat deep so that it clings to the other pieces. Because if I don't make them deep enough, there's a chance that they might slide around or come apart. Okay, so after I do this for a little bit, I then measure it again to see if it fits. And it does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start attaching these to these, and I'm going to tie them. Okay. So what I forgot to show you was that the two longer sticks were going to make the frame. So I made a notch in here so that it will come across here and it'll be easier to tie. And then what I do is I split some wood. Tines are going to go into. So it's going to go kind of like this. And that'll be how it is when I'm done. And these are going to go all along here. And what I want to do is make sure there's a little room left on the sides so that later on I can tie these on and still have some room. Alright, so now I'm going to start tying. I'm tying a slip knot so that I can start tying the tines to the little rail that I have going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip this on. Just going to make it bigger. and put it across like this. So make sure this is even. Okay. And now I'm going to pull it. Okay, that should be tight. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap it around a few times, just so it will stay in place. You want to wrap it around each direction a couple times. Just to make sure it's tight. And what I'm using is 550 cord. Just want to make sure. So the last wrap that I'm going to do is I want it to come across this way. So it's going to go from this end to this side, so that when I have the other twines, which I'm going to start putting in right now, what I'm going to do is wrap it around here and go around the back, and then start wrapping it around this one. And you want to do this a few times and kind of do the same thing until I get all of the tines wrapped in. You don't have to do it that many times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start placing them in, just so I can see where I want them. I'm going to put them in right here just to kind of see how the spaces I want to put them. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie up the rest, and then when I'm done with that, I'll turn the video back on and I'll start tying it to the frame. This is the finished product of the rake tines, and they're pretty stable. I tied each one, and then at the end I did the stick bow tie to make it stronger so that it won't fall apart. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this to the frame. Okay, so let's make sure it fits like it's supposed to. And it looks like it's going to fit nicely actually. There we go. So now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to tie these together. And then after I tie these on, I'm going to tie this around this. And the rake should be done by then. So I'm going to start tying. Okay, so now I'm going to attach these two right here. And I had made a notch so that it'll fit. And to tie it, I'm going to tie a slip knot first so that I can wrap it around several times. So let me tie the slip knot real quick. Okay. So I want to make this small. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to angle this right here and put it through the slip knot, the middle of it. And it should tie in. There we go. That tightened nicely. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to keep wrapping it around to make sure it's tight enough. Okay. So I'm going to want to do the square. So at the end what I did was I tied the square knot. And as you can see, it fits pretty perfectly and doesn't move that much. So now it's time to do the other side of the frame. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this part first. But first I want to make sure I have the right angle. Okay, this goes right here. Now I'm going to tie this part over here. So what I did is I tied the frames together so that it will finish off the rake. And I did what I showed in the first one that I tied, I did for the rest of them, so I just repeated. And I ended up attaching the frames to the tines. So this is the finished product of the rake. And now it's time to test it out. So now we're going to test out the rake. Let's see how it does. And it looks like it's actually working. It gets just enough leaves. You can easily make a rake and rake out the sticks and whatever it is that you want to put your at. So, yeah, it works.